how I accidentally got a free vacation by unloading a trailer. So I was a trucker for a while, and that came with plenty of stories of crazy things in so many places. One of my favorite stories, however, comes from a piece of malicious compliance that came together just perfectly. I tend to be a bit on the lazy side when I can get away with it, and I searched for quite some time to find a company that would keep me far away from unloading the trailers myself. I found a good one that had a 95% drop and hook rate, drop off a trailer full of goods, then grab a new one that's either loaded or to take to the next pickup. 4.9% of them are either handled by the receiving dock or by lumpers dockworkers hired by warehouse companies specifically to unload trucks. That 0.1% is a list of places that just want to watch you work, or be convinced that you really shouldn't operate their lifts. In my contract, I saw that there was a place where your hourly rate for unloading was stated, not for the hours that you were sitting and waiting to be unloaded, but for when you were the one unloading your own trailer. I also saw that the contract allowed for alterations to be made to the price of this service to be charged to the customer. As a joke, I put in not one but two extra zeros. $1,500 an hour for unloading a trailer should deter most people. Most people saw that, got a good laugh, then pulled in someone to unload for me. Most people, like I said, were smart. This run was set to arrive at 3 a.m. to a certain clothing store in the mall. Let's call them IB Nickeled. I'd been to this store a few times before, and it was always the same manager, Mr. Dime, receiving me, and it was always the same runaround. If I wanted to get unloaded, I had to wait for someone to get there. Then I'd have to sit and wait while the poor kid back there got the load off. Then I'd have to wait for traffic to ease up to get out since it was always almost 10:30 by the time I finally left, leaving me with only a couple of hours left on my clock to get to a truck stop for the day. I got there and yep, Mr. Dime had come in to accept the load. It was always hard to be smart at 3 a.m., and I can only imagine that was part of Mr. Dime's usual runaround. This time was a bit different for a few reasons. One, he smelled like there was a bit of an herbal calming remedy about him to settle his nerves for the night. Two, he said that he was completely understaffed, and there was no one around to unload me, so I'd have to do it myself. Three, I couldn't stay to my usual time because he had to leave before 5 a.m. To be fair to him, I did try and say, sure, but my contract says. I don't give a darn what your contract states. I don't have anyone in until the store opens, and I've got an appointment that's more important than some trucker's contract. Just unload it yourself. I considered it for a moment and went back up to my truck to get my tablet. This was in 2019 before the virus, and the company had just swapped over to tablets for certain things, like signing off on expenses or getting permissions. Mr. Dime was fuming when I came back and handed him the tablet. Just read through and sign with your finger. He didn't read through. I had 20 pallets at 1,500 pounds each. The only available tool to unload was a manual pallet jack. I started my work clock and began unloading at 3:15 a.m. At 5 a.m., Mr. Dime looked on in satisfaction to see me about 3/4 of the way through as he was out the door. At 5:15 a.m., Mr. Dime's replacement, Mr. Quarter of the day shift, comes running in with his face white as a sheet to see me taking off the fourth to last pallet. Please tell me that I'm reading this wrong, he pled fruitlessly. I wish I could, I lied, knowing that Mr. Dime was about to be up a muddy creek with a spoon. I even tried telling Mr. Dime what he was getting into, but he just skimmed and signed. He slumped. Wait here, I need to call my district manager. Better be quick. I want to be out of this lot by 6:30 to beat the morning rush and get a good breakfast. He ran back and I continued unloading. When I finally got the last pallet off at 5:50, I turned off my time clock as the district manager came in. We'll call him Mr. Dollar just to keep consistent. He was followed both by Mr. Quarter, who was looking somewhat relieved, and by Mr. Dime, who was somewhere between terrified and furious. You're Mr. Arrow? Mr. Dollar asked, holding a printout and looking to it for the name. That's me, I agreed. I take it they sent over the contract Mr. Dime signed. Yes, and that's just it. Mr. Dime is accusing you of forging his signature on this since there's no way he'd sign off on a multi-$1,000 contract just to unload a trailer, especially since he claims you insisted on unloading it yourself. I whistled. That's a heck of an accusation. Hey, is that CCTV I see up in that corner over there? I asked, knowing full well that the entire loading dock was covered by a slew of cameras. The one I pointed out was positioned just right to catch the whole conversation at the door. Mr. Quarter, get the footage, Mr. Dollar said. We don't have audio, but we do have visual on them. Mr. Dime lost his fury and now just looked petrified. One review later, and I was grinning like a loon back to my truck. I called my manager, booked some home time, and walked away with enough money to last to the end of the month. The next time I went into that IB Nickeled, there was a new, much more sensible manager who always had a man on staff to unload the trucks. To clarify a few things. Yes, I milked it a bit, though not as much as some people might think. Like I said, I was regularly there from 3 a.m. to 10:30 at the latest. Throw on top of that the fact that I've never been the healthiest of individuals, and it took me that long to keep from hurting myself. This was during the summer in Southern California, and even at night, it was still about 90 degrees outside, hotter in the trailer without any air conditioning. A big man with no AC is going to take all the time he wants. Why didn't Mr. Dime do any of this himself, and why did he lie? Truckers tend to get the short end of the stick, even when we're regulars to a place. This was the 5th or 6th time I'd been there spread out over the course of 4 months or so. So I was familiar enough that I was recognized at the dock, but not so much that they really cared to keep track of it. The manager figured he could probably get away with shafting me since he claimed I didn't like how long I was waiting. I feel like he's made other truckers get to that point, but none of them had hourly rates like mine on their contract. He's just one of many that thought he could get away with blaming it on that darn trucker when it went wrong for him. What happened while we watched the video was pretty anticlimactic. The recording was on Mr. Quarter's phone when he came back and was pretty low quality, but you could still make out that I argued with him about unloading for a minute before coming back, and he did indeed sign it. Mr. Dollar said, "You can go, Arrow. Mr. Dime, go wait in the office. Now." I got going while the going was good.